We were besieged by new information concerning the MCU this past weekend at San Diego Comic-Con. One of the big things was the first trailer, or I guess a revised trailer, of the She-Hulk show for Disney Plus. And here talking to me about that is my good friend Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing well, Wes. How are you doing? I'm doing a lot better than fans are doing with some of these MCU images we're getting.
Well, I'm not doing too bad. I think a lot of people are somewhat interested in this because it does feel like it's the John Byrne take on the character where she's green, but she's sexy, powerful attorney at law, but does get into obviously some superhero shenanigans. And obviously when they did the first trailer, a lot of people had issues with the visual effects and they remastered them apparently and did this other trailer. What was different about it? It still looked really bad. What
it still looked like a cartoon. And, a friend of mine that was watching it with me said, like, I don't understand. She looks like a cartoon. Hulk looks like a cartoon. Why wouldn't they just do a cartoon? Like, she goes, I'd rather see it in like the What If style than watch this.
Yeah, it's strange. A lot of people are saying it kind of looks like, Shrek's girlfriend, Fiona, or I guess it's his wife, on the big screen. And the weird thing is, I think one of the things that the MCU has done as far as visual effects with Hulk is they've textured the character, and he looks really lifelike, except he's enormous and green. Mm-hmm. And this version, it feels like they just put a green filter over the character, so she doesn't come off as lifelike because it's almost like no longer 3D anymore.
Yeah, it's really strange. It looks like a PS3, kind of like cutscene that you would get. It just doesn't. It doesn't look. I don't believe that she's there the way that, like, in the films that I believe that, like, the Hulk is there. There's a disconnect. We've kind of like seem to have gone backwards, and maybe a lot of that has to do with what we're hearing from the VFX industry right now. Is that nobody wants to work for Disney Marvel because the crunch time and the way that they're overworked, and there's just too much put on their shoulders. So it just seems like maybe this is the best anyone's willing to do at this point.
Well, Victoria Alonso is in charge of all the visual effects over at Disney Marvel with the MCU. She just got a Lifetime Achievement Award for visual effects in the industry and stuff like that. I thought people would be champing at the bit to work for Victoria Alonso, the person that wants to change the X-Men to the mutants because the X-Men is misogynist.
Oh, what a terrible, terrible idea that is. Everything is just awful, isn't it? I saw I think it was a Babylon Bee thing the other day, and I sent it to Joe and a couple other friends of mine, where it said, "Good news, that beloved franchise of yours is getting a new movie or show. Bad news, it's 2022." And it's absolutely true. I don't know. I think that to take, just to jump off onto that for a second, to take one of the most recognizable brands like the X-Men, and because of some stupid current day politics think that you have to change it to the mutants, which is far less marketable, far less interesting, is just peak 2022 at this point.
Yeah, it's like saying people kind instead of mankind, not realizing that man can symbolize all people. That's kind of one of the meanings of the word.
Well, it's like Natalie Portperson.
Yeah, it's like you can't say all men. That's misogynist.
No,
like,
all women. We live in the dumbest time.
We do. But you have to feel bad for star Titania Maslany. She looks like she would be a good She-Hulk. It sounds like she's into the role. It's not her fault that they kind of destroyed the looks of the character in the show.
No, I think that, as far as choices for She-Hulk, I think that, she might have been, and she may yet, but I'm not optimistic. She might have been a great choice. She might really inhabit the role. She might do a good job with it, but it's going to come down to the writing. And unfortunately, with a lot of the Disney Plus shows and a lot of the things that we're getting, even in the movies now under Victoria Alonso's leadership, I'm just not feeling that the writing has been up to snuff. And the thing that really bothers me is that they don't seem to take these characters seriously. Everything's a big joke. And we kind of saw that this week. They released images of the Wrecking Crew and Mantle. And, these are characters, maybe not Mantle so much, but the Wrecking Crew are very, very important characters within, the Marvel Comics universe. They've gone toe-to-toe with the Hulk, with Thor. They're very interesting, very cool looking characters. They've got a great visual, great silhouette to them when you see them. They're absolutely fantastic. And here in the, MCU now, they're going to be on She-Hulk, and they look like a complete joke. They look like a bunch of punk teenagers.
Well, yeah, because you got to do the Burger King's Kids Club version of the team because they have to be like ethnically diverse. You can't just have like the original characters from the from the show. It's kind of like the weird thing with Thor. Although I think there was less pushback then because Thor was kind of doing it for the first time, where you're taking Norse gods and it's like, well, we need an Asian Norse god. It's like Norse is like Vikings. That's Scandinavia. There's no Asians there. There's no black dudes there. Why are you putting Asian people, black people into Norse mythology? It'd be like putting white people into African mythology. None of this stuff makes sense. But it's all, I guess, for the image of whatever the MCU is now. It
would be like if we went into Black Panther 2 and they're like, hey, we're going to have Bast, the god of the Wakandans. We're actually going to have this god appear, this Egyptian god. It was Pete Davidson. Now I know a lot of that has happened throughout the years. Like, you watch Gods of Egypt and it's a bunch of white guys running around. I think that there wasn't a lot of pushback on Thor because people were kind of like, the Nine Realms. And it's not like Heimdall was ever the most popular character in the Thor comics. People obviously like the Warriors 3 and Hogun, but Hogun was always kind of drawn vaguely enough that I think people were rather accepting of it. But now that it feels like just completely manufactured, I think that people are getting tired of it. The Wrecking Crew, they had some diversity on there. They had Thunderball, but that's not enough. Now we've got to make sure that everybody's represented in everything at all times. And whether or not that works for the character or it's true to the character, be damned.
So which character do you think is going to come out as non-binary? Because we got to get some of that flavor in there, right?
My guess right now, looking at the image, is Mantle.
Dreadlocks. That character looks pretty ridiculous. I don't know. It feels like it's been a several steps back, which is within the MCU. And it wasn't just She-Hulk. If you saw the trailer, the wig on Titania it looks absolutely ridiculous. I was laughing my tail off when I saw that.
Well, her costume is ridiculous. It's I know that the actress put out a thing saying like, hey, my hair was really bad on this day. Don't take this as the quality of the show. And I was like, nobody's upset about your hair. Nobody's upset about nobody's upset about your hair. It's the crappy costume that everybody's taking issue with. The problem is, you take the Wrecking Crew and you turn them into these like goofy teenagers or whatever, and maybe they're going to get magicked up. Maybe they're going to get turned into the buff CGI versions that we expect. But when you put out an image like this, when marketing puts this image out, it's like, is this supposed to get me more interested in the show or less? Because you've severely lessened my interest to the point that I'm not even invested. I'm probably not even going to watch it. I think I'm out. And I think I'm kind of out on the MCU in general. I think it's run its course for me, a superhero fan who should be on board for all of this. But it's just progressed backwards. It's, the reason that it was successful is because you took these things and you took them seriously. You gave us a talking raccoon and a talking tree, and they were treated with dignity and respect. They were given actual characters and they were treated like real characters. And now everything's a joke. Everything's like, isn't this ridiculous? There's plenty of characters in the Marvel Universe you can use to fill that purpose. Frogman is in She-Hulk. That's a perfect character for that kind of thing. Even Mantle to an extent, I wouldn't be too upset about. But the freaking Wrecking Crew, you don't have any respect for these things. And you just treat them as jokes. So if you don't take them seriously, why should I, as an audience member, take them seriously?
Well, it feels like that's kind of the pushback they're getting. Even though Thor: Love and Thunder opened up pretty darn well, it kind of just fell off a cliff. And right now it looks like it's going to be 50-50 whether or not the movie actually makes a profit, based on the marketing budget as well as the production budget and all that kind of stuff. And that would have been unthinkable just a few weeks ago when you got the opening numbers. But people, they're not sticking around. They're not going and watching their MCU movies 3 or 4 times like they were back in the day, when it did feel like they were putting a premium on quality. Yes, they were going out there and finding some talent that maybe weren't the best known, but they were high quality talent. But it feels like they're doing the same thing that Marvel Comics are doing, where they're going out there a lot of times and they're casting their directors based on their physical traits and stuff like that, so they can get a good PR story when they go out there and announce that this is the new director of the next Avengers movie. And it's the guy that made Shang-Chi, which wasn't very good and didn't make a lot of money. I don't understand the choices that they're making.
No, I know a lot of people who say that Shang-Chi, despite what they've said, Shang-Chi wasn't profitable. It did not, that it may have not even broken even. I don't know if that's true, but I know that it certainly wasn't, very popular as far as box office returns go, and nobody's talking about it anymore. Like it's just fallen by the wayside. And I think that's another problem that we're running into with the MCU is there's so much so fast that these things aren't events anymore. They don't feel important. It's like Star Wars. It's just become content that is disposable and forgettable. And that's the danger of how much stuff that they're doing. Like, do you care about the Echo show? They're doing an Echo show. Who cares?
That's why
give a crap.
What I've been told is going to be the Daredevil and Wilson Fisk show with Echo kind of in the background because they know the character can't carry a show on her own.
I mean, that would make sense, and I'd be more invested in Daredevil. The only things that I'm excited about on that whole slate for phases 5 and 6 that they put up. And by the way, was there even a Shang-Chi 2 in there? I don't recall seeing it.
There is. It's been announced, but they haven't announced what the date is. So is it going to be in phase 5 or 6? It hasn't been confirmed yet.
Okay, well, hopefully. I mean, I don't care because I'm not going to see it. But either way, not interested in it. The only things on that entire slate that I was mildly interested in is I'm interested in seeing how they do Blade, although I expect it to be disastrous with a PG-13 rating. But I'm still mildly interested. Daredevil Born Again, because I'm already invested in Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because James Gunn hasn't let me down yet on those movies. That's it. I don't care about Captain America 4. After watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, I don't even like Falcon anymore. They changed his character, and I find him unlikable. So I'm certainly not going to go see him, carry a movie. I don't care. These new Avengers movies, I don't care because the Avengers that I care about are gone. Or, in the case of Thor, Taika Waititi's turned him into a moron. So I'm just not invested anymore. And maybe that's just me. You can tell me in the comments if you guys are still into it. But I'm out. I'm burnt out.
The MCU at one point was must-see. I didn't want to watch Captain Marvel, and I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it in a plane coming to visit my wife. But I saw all the MCU movies. Now there's plenty of stuff in the MCU I haven't seen yet. I'm not going to see the Eternals. I have no interest. I'm not going to see Shang-Chi. I have no interest. I'm not going to go watch Miss Marvel. I have no interest. To me, the MCU isn't must-see TV or movies anymore. It's kind of pick and choose what you think is going to be interesting. I did enjoy the Spider-Man No Way Home movie, because it was nostalgia bait. It wasn't because it was a great movie, the MCU. It was because they were bringing a bunch of stuff that wasn't in the MCU that I thought was interesting. I haven't seen Doctor Strange yet. I don't know that I'm going to. It didn't sound that good to me.
No, you don't really need to see it. It's not that great. I mean, the only things about Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness that I enjoyed was I do think that Elizabeth Olsen's performance was good, despite the fact that I don't like what they did with the character or the way that they did it. And I thought that Sam Raimi's direction, there's a lot of fun Raimi moments in there. And of course, Bruce Campbell, always the best, part of anything that he appears in. So his little cameo was fantastic. Aside from that, it's not really. I don't think it's really worth watching. It doesn't really add anything. As a matter of fact, I think it largely detracts.
You would think would be a big deal. That's one of the most successful comic events of all times. One of the real great stories. But like you said, there's no Captain America. There's no Iron Man anymore. A lot of these characters are gone now.
And I was invested in Falcon in the movies as Falcon and Anthony Mackie as Falcon. I don't care about him in the Captain America role. I don't think that they established him, and I don't think this is Anthony Mackie's fault, but I don't think that show established him as a leading man, and I don't know that he can carry the franchise at this point, based off of what I've seen. So I'm not interested. I liked it in the comics when they switched over because I always like when you even temporarily fulfill the promise of the sidekick, stepping up and becoming the, I like when Dick Grayson was Batman for a time. I know that I'm going to get the real character back at some point, but I'm fine with those little temporary mantle switches because I think that fulfills a promise to comic book readers. It can be fun. But in the movies, I'm not really invested in it, and I'm not invested in any mantle swaps. Like, I don't care to watch movies where you've replaced the actors. I know that they age out of the roles and they get expensive and you don't want to pay them, but don't care about Ironheart. I care about Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. That's what I'm invested in.
I'm with you. I really like legacy characters, and I like them stepping up the plate. Obviously Dick Grayson is going to be the greatest Batman of all times if they ever let it play out. Do you have any final words about the MCU and She-Hulk and just some of the bad feelings just around it right now?
I think that the biggest problem, there's a saying on the internet, I think might have been started by Doomcock, but it's without respect, we reject. And I think that that's the point that I'm at. I don't feel like these things are being respected. You see that picture of the Wrecking Crew, and I'm like, you are not respecting these characters. These characters deserve better. And if you guys, as the people who are the the shepherds of this IP. If you can't take it seriously, if it's all a big joke to you, then how am I supposed to feel about it? I'm out. I think I'm done. And it's going to be, much like comics, it's going to take a lot to win me back if you even can.
And it does appear Aaron Sparrow is not alone. The box office receipts outside of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange have been going down. The viewership on Disney Plus has also been trending down. Miss Marvel is by far and away the least watched MCU show on Disney Plus. It's not even close. Definitely check this out. Yes, it is somewhat formatted for children, but it's supposed to be part of the MCU. It's absolutely bombing. The MCU is not strong right now, and Miss Marvel is part of the problem.